After the propaganda triumph at his trial, Hitler set out to write the Bible of National Socialism. He dictated much of the text here in his cell to his faithful follower, Rudolf Hess. On Saturday evenings, the other prisoners sat around as Hitler read out the completed chapters to them. The book as a whole dwells on the great obsessions which had come to dominate Hitler's political thought: the Jews, racism, living space for the German people, the evils of communism and parliamentary democracy. But it also includes Hitler's views on a variety of other topics, ranging from boxing to syphilis. The amazing appeal Hitler was later to exercise, but on his mastery of the spoken word. After prison, the leader, or Führer as he now called himself, had a new political strategy. Instead of planning another coup, he aimed to win power at the polls. What was to win him millions of votes was instead his vision of a great national revival. Hitler's election opportunity came with the onset of the Depression. In a few years, 1 in 3 of the labor force was out of work. Ilse Wendel was a church social worker during the Depression among the unemployed in the Berlin slums.
The despair was so terrible as I can't describe it. You had everywhere beggars. Wherever you went in Berlin, you had beggars.
The democratic political parties offered no solution. To millions of Germans, the only hope was Adolf Hitler.
Have you been to the marketplace? Do you know how much it costs for a loaf of bread these days? 500,000 marks. 500,000 marks. The wheelbarrows aren't big enough to carry the money in. And he's afraid I'll stir things up. You tell Commissar Karl, this is not a time for silence.
I supported Hitler because he, after having seen all that depravity, all that poverty here, was the only one who could do social justice to the people here.
He had that ability, the ability derived from his readiness to throw himself totally open, to appear, as it were, bare and naked before his audience, to tear open his heart and display, to throw on a few extra generators and suddenly become absolutely charged with energy.
It wasn't as though he was using words, it's as though the emotions came direct without words almost. There was a rawness about it, a power.
In uns selbst allein liegt die Zukunft des deutschen Volkes.
6.5 million votes, 107 seats, biggest party in the Reichstag.
Get me Hitler.
Einen Geist, eine Entschlossenheit, einen Trotz, eine Beharrlichkeit. Dann werden wir wieder emporsteigen, genau wie die Väter einst auch Deutschland nicht Geschenk erhielten, sondern selbst geschaffen.
Nobody's ever had this power to move audiences. Everybody says it the way he says it.
Hitler comes to power, not as he had hoped through outright victory at the polls, but as head of a coalition government. As this withering glance suggests, Hitler despises his coalition partners. He quickly outmaneuvers them and establishes his own dictatorship.
A month after he comes to power, the Reichstag building, the Parliament building in Berlin, is set on fire. This happens to come at the time when he is constantly insisting that there is a communist plot to overthrow the new government and to carry out a revolution. And the Reichstag fire goes up in flames, which everybody could see. Before that night was over, he had got a set of decrees drawn up which transformed the situation politically. All the guarantees which people in any democratic state, the freedom of speech, so on, freedom from arrest, all this is swept away.
A majority of Germans tolerate the burning of books, the banning of other political parties, and the setting up of a police state, because Hitler offers a way out of the depression.
If he's doing things which are not so good, which haven't, then we said, well, you have to take the rough with the smooth. Dictatorship seemed to be the only way to get out of the mess. And so I thought that was a good thing that they cut away all this nonsense and rather did something, really did something, and that's what Hitler did.
He eliminated the crushing unemployment that Germany suffered. And he gave millions of people new confidence and indeed welfare. They were doing better, much better.
They came in their tens of thousands, full of youthful idealism, to worship the Führer in the awesome surroundings of the Nuremberg Stadium. Among the worshippers in the Hitler Youth was Alfons Heck, now a writer on the Nazi period.
The decisive turning point in my life occurred at the age of 10. From that moment on, I would remain beholden to Adolf Hitler long until after our defeat. I was one of 82,000 members of the Hitler Youth lined up in the Zeppelins field. I stood in the first row. And when Hitler began to speak, we were just tingling with nervousness, finally to see our God. When he appeared on the podium, I was afraid to look at my neighbor because I didn't want him to see the tears in my eyes. My knees were shaking. And Hitler beamed down on us. He calmed us down by lifting his hands, both hands, several times. When he began to speak, it was in a very conversational tone. Man to boy, father to son.
Und ich weiß, das kann nicht anders sein. Denn ihr seid Fleisch von unserem Fleisch und Blut, von unserem Blut. Und in euren jungen Gehirn brennt derselbe Geist, der uns beherrscht.
And he said how fortunate we were to live in this new age. And he said, from now on, you no longer have to fear any class distinction. You're all one. But the essence and the emphasis occurred in the final sentences. He leaned over the podium, and I know he looked straight into my eyes, and he said, you, my boys, the young of Germany, live in a fortunate time because you are the standard bearers of the movement. You will inherit what we have so far created. And from that moment on, without any doubt, I was bound to Adolf Hitler, long until after our defeat.
Vor uns liegt Deutschland, in uns marschiert Deutschland und hinter uns kommt Deutschland.
The mid-1930s were the halcyon years of Hitler's Germany. Germany was at peace, her prosperity restored, her national pride recovered. To those prepared to ignore or justify the police state, it seemed a beautiful Germany. A host of distinguished foreign visitors, many with impeccable democratic credentials, came to call on the Führer at his mountain retreat, the Berghof. Among them was the former British Prime Minister, David Lloyd George. With LG was his secretary, Albert Sylvester.
Hitler ran down the flight of stairs to welcome LG as he got out of his car, shook hands with him most warmly, and conducted us into the inside of the Berghof. This massive room, the only light of which came from a massive window, which was terrific. I've never seen such a window. Lloyd George said, "You have done great things for Germany. You have restored her honor, and you have gained for her equal rights."